Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to the Brothers in Influence podcast, where we stand to encourage, inspire, and add value to Black men in the areas of life, leadership, and community. We consist of 5 brothers discussing relevant topics with candor and care. Thank you for tuning in. Let's go. We back and in full effect, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ian Williams, your purpose coach. You can find me on Twitter at Son of the King 02, on Instagram at Ian Coaches. And of course, right above me, you see the arrangement here. This is not by accident. I know these two guys I'm a step behind. As usual, I have the privilege of creating a space for them to introduce themselves. So, without further ado, let me step back. Gentlemen, what's up?
What's going on, sir? Oh, look at him. Look at him. He's showing off now. He really showing off. He's showing off. Hey.
Again, I am Shawty Price.
Look at him. Look at him. He doing too much.
Oh, man. Shawty Price, I am your thought coach. And you can find me with my name, Shawty Price, on all social media networks. And I'm here with my mans and thems. My man Sherrod's next.
This guy, look at him. Look at him. Hey, this is Sherrod Ledet. Hey, this is the locksmith. I am your leadership and professional development coach. I'm ready to get at this today, man. Go ahead and let's get it. Let's get it. Ian came in, man. Look, let me just jump in. One, brother, I missed you from last week, right? Just go ahead and just be all the way real with it. Like, no one can do the introduction like you do. He said he came in, let's go. Dropped everything. We just roll right into it, right? Like you said it every time. Set the stage every time. I want to be like you when I grow up.
Bro, y'all just rubbing off on me. That's the only reason I've been able to do it like I do it. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, well, rubs this way, because I'm feeling like I done gave you everything. Rub some back this way.
Oh man, you know what time it is? It's the check-in. How's everybody doing?
I'm good. I'll be honest. It was a little rough, little rough start, but I'm good. All good on this end.
The day to the week, what you saying?
Yeah, well, to the day, it was just, I don't know. I got up, you know how like you just wake up, not in a bad mood, you just wake up and you're kind of like, right. And I got into my routine. You know, I always get my quiet time. And even then I was like, I just couldn't get focused today, just in the beginning. But yeah, it worked out. So I'm good. I think it was just a simple fact that I knew I was going to be touching elbows and rubbing hands, and you know, with you guys and being the mix that got me into getting into my day. But it was just a rough start. Yeah. So.
All right. So was it you saying it's the anticipation? You was like, I just couldn't wait to get to the podcast. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. I don't know, Doc. I just couldn't get it. It was just rough. But yeah, but then it was, then you shot the message like what we got going on today, and then I was just like, here I am, I'm ready to rock.
So I feel you, bro. I was just telling Shawty behind backstage, man. Them allergies was bullying me all weekend, boy. I sneezing and all kind of stuff.
He said he got bullied by his allergies.
Oh man.
Hey, you keep that over there though. I don't want to get bullied.
Allergies came through. I had to tuck my chain, but boy, it was like G-Ball.
He said bullying allergies. That's new. I gotta look that up. That's a new allergy.
I had to get cousin Benny on the line. You know that Benadryl. Got me a good night's sleep, and I'm back in full effect right now.
Look at him.
I recovered from that. So
he called cousin Benny. Hey Benny.
Benny, I need a night, Benny.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because if I would hit Benadryl, it's been over. I'd be.
Oh yeah, it was over. It was over.
Yeah, I can't even function like 2 days after this one. I can't do it.
I was running about a quarter speed all day. I got a little something done, but I'm just now starting to feel like myself again.
Mm, mm, mm.
Do what you got to do,
brother.
Man, I've been good. Short, kind of short work weekend. Wasn't too busy, so I took advantage. Took advantage of the shortness. Got some stuff done. Things been working on, getting some stuff done, sending out some emails. I think I got all my debriefs scheduled except for like 3. So still working. I think I got 2 people still ain't did them. You know how that is sometimes. So just every other day sending out emails. So yeah, I've been good. Sunday, Aubrey wasn't feeling too good. So you know how that is. So she's a little better, but so we just chilling.
I hate it when the babies don't feel good, man.
All in all, pretty good. I can't complain about this last week.
That's cool. That's good stuff. So
that's what my partner always used to say. He said, "I could complain, but nobody would listen." So,
ain't that the truth?
Like I don't even like listening to myself when I complain. So I know nobody else want to listen to me.
Right. What else? What else going on? Okay, Shiraz got something in his pocket. I'll pull it out.
Nah, I ain't got nothing in my pocket. I ain't got nothing. Really, ain't got nothing in my pocket. I'm over here hurt. No, I'm playing.
Put a rabbit out of his pocket.
The circle on the playground. Every time you try to pull it out to show us that new thing, we like, we changing the subject. Go pull it out, partner.
Nah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just glad to be on here today, brothers.
Yeah, man. So what we talking about?
The value
what we talking about?
Of communication.
What we talking about?
That's what we talking about.
The value of communication.
Sound like that's what we talking about.
The nuance.
The value of communication. Who came up with that?
That leadership locksmith.
That's what it sounds like. Probably. That's kind of sound like somebody dropping some keys. Or what it sounds like.
It sounds like somebody dropping some keys. Hey, you better pick them keys up. You never know what they unlock, brother. Exactly. You never know what they lock. You gotta pick up them keys.
Yes, sir.
It's interesting when you think about keys, though, right? So, is the value in the key or in the key holder?
We already went deep, ladies and gentlemen.
Right? Is the value in the key or the key holder? Yeah, the key's only as good as the person. Yeah, what?
I would say the holder. If we jump back to the just slipped my mind. The Matrix example. Remember the guy that had the keys in the Matrix? Can open. Now I'm just gonna lay that. I'm just gonna.
You just gonna lay that at my feet, though.
Yeah. Because I know you a lot. I know you can. But yeah, when you asked that question, that's my mind went right there. Because he had the keys to all the doors. He was I think he was the key maker, right? If I'm not
mistaken. He was the key maker.
So he made the keys to open all these doors. So that's the first thing I thought about when you even asked that question. And it has to be, right? Because if I give a key to somebody that don't know nothing about a lock and a door, are they gonna know how to use it? No. They just not, because they're not used to it.
Right. So, well, and here's the thing, like the reality of it is we know what a key does. We know the purpose of the key. The key is to unlock or lock, right? So let's not even just look at it too, right? It's also to lock. So because, here's the reality of a door. You walk through it, right? So therefore you had to open it. But when you walk through the door, do you close it? Right. And what does a closed door represent? What does a closed door represent? Right. Now it just depends. It's either going to hold something in or it's going to keep something from going. Right. But again, the value of the key is not in the key, but in the key holder, what the purpose of the key is and what it is that you're looking for. Find the keys. So let's go ahead and just bring it full circle, right? Communication, the value of communication, that is definitely a key when it comes to leadership. I would say it's the key.
Yes, sir.
Right? Because it's the number one thing that a leader needs to do, right? And let's not even just look at it from leadership. Let's look at it from a relationship perspective, right? You can't build relationships without communication. You can't be an effective leader without good relationships or your ability to build relationships. So again, the value in communication is definitely in your ability to articulate and to provide information. Let's look at the definition of communication, right? It's the act of providing information, knowledge and information. And it gives you it. It is the way that you give information and value through communication, right? For people. I mean, it's even from the perspective of being able to receive information, right? So communication isn't just one-sided. It's your ability to give it, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm jumping ahead of myself, but here it is, right? The part that I think we sometimes forget about communication is the comprehension factor. Because comprehension is all about your ability to receive the information, understand the information, right? And then hopefully apply the information. Now we're talking about evolution, but I'm gonna stop, right? I'm gonna leave it alone because that's what you asked the question. The value of communication, brothers, the value of communication.
Yeah, man, if you tuned in with us right now, we appreciate you. We want to give you a shout. Shout out to Corey Davis in the comments, giving us a shout. Appreciate you, bro. Yeah, man, if you're rocking with us, you just heard what we're talking about, the value of communication. What comes to mind for you, those of you that are in the audience? Go ahead and jump in the chat. Let us know.
Yeah.
What do you think the value of communication is? We'd love for you to join in the dialogue today.
Yeah, my man Corey said, yeah, that's good. He said the key or the key holder.
Mm-hmm.
The key and the key holder. And I'll be honest, Corey, brother, that just hit me right then and there when we was talking about it when Shante just put me on the spot real quick. But it hit me like the key. And it's funny because right now, literally, if we were to, I wish I had my keys. If I was to show you my key ring, I have nothing but keys on there. Mm-hmm. To give it to someone else there would be no value in that, right? Because it's not their keys. They don't know what it unlocks. They don't know what it goes to. Right. So talking about communication though, communication. So when we think about that, how would y'all define communication?
Corey says communication is everything. We can lock or unlock our doors to our potential. Wow.
Absolutely.
Loving Corey, brother. You are on it. You are on it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And it's funny because again, communication or our ability to communicate, it literally opens doors. Because not every door has to be locked, but definitely if a door is locked, the right question, right? The power of questions. You ask the right question, guess what? Now you're thinking, right? Once you start thinking, going from that conscious or that subconscious to conscious mind, now you're unlocking things.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Keep putting them on the spot.
Leadership Locksmith is flowing, boy.
That's what he do. And I think the thing too is because it say the value of communication. Mm-hmm. So first of all, the value, if we're talking about an individual, the value is in their values. First off.
Oh,
then say that again though. You're gonna have to say it again because that was good.
I'm gonna need you to repeat that one.
The value is in your values. But we're talking about the value of communication. So if and because communication, first of all, is a two-way street, right? Mm-hmm. Because if I'm just, even when we communicate with ourselves, is a two-way street. We talk about being mindful, self-talk.
Talk it.
It's a two-way street. And if you one of them people that think you crazy because you talk to yourself, you're not. Everybody does it. Even the people that don't realize they do it. We do it. That's how our brains work. It's just like a computer. A computer is always communicating. We are on computers right now. There's things going on in the background that we don't know about, but it's all about that. The processor communicating with this and this. I don't know nothing about computers, but hey, that's just how it works. So when I understand my values, that when I understand them, not something I think, but when I understand these values, that's first of all, that's what is that going to do to me with communication? Is going to heighten it first because I know who I am pretty much.
Right.
When we get down to values is talking about who you are at the core, who you are at the core, not those surface things that can change with different words, but that the core of who you are, because that is what responds or reacts to situations that play upon us. So now I understand that this two-way communication, and I understand my values. Now when I do go forth to communicate, like us, what we're doing on this podcast, we get it. We're flowing with our communication. When we come on here, we're bouncing off of each other, right? Because we're like-minded in our thinking and within this platform. Although we got other things we're doing in life, other businesses or whatever going on, all of us have kids. All of our kids aren't the same. We all have wives. All our wives are the same, right? So these are all different areas of communication. So people are forever communicating. You walk out the door, the moment you wake up, communication is manifest. Because you're thinking within yourself, what am I going to do today? Or how am I going to do it? Or what do I have planned? All these things are communication. Walk out the door. Stuff is going to happen. Even at a light, you're communicating. Person next to you at the light. Things are always going on. Everybody drive. I don't care where you at. You're going to drive past some corner. There's somebody on the corner, trying to ask for some money. I'm hungry, stuff like that, right? How do you respond to it? That don't mean it might be 30 people you pass. Does that mean you got to give 30 people something? No. And a lot of people you see every single day because that's your route, right? So yeah, I think I kind of been hitting on that a lot the last few weeks. That value, and that's because that's part of the book portion I'm working on right now, because it's just so detrimental to who a person is as an individual and what they want to do. And when you don't understand them, it holds you back.
Yeah, that's real. That's
the
real.
value of communication.
Yeah, I mean, communication is just so fundamental, and it's one of those things that permeates every aspect of life. When I was listening to you, Shante, it made me think. You're talking about how we think. We think we're thinking to ourselves, or we're talking to ourselves, which in a lot of ways is talking out loud or thinking out loud. Sorry. We're not talking about, having multiple personalities and talking back to each other. I mean, that's not what we're saying. But if you're thinking out loud, you know what I'm saying? Everybody does that. That's what we're saying. So, but even then, like on the most, even some of the more fundamental like levels that we take for granted, like I think my son, he stubbed his finger on a door the other day. It's like the way our body works. It's communicating. Hey, something happened to you. You know what I'm saying? And so he communicated to me by crying, of course. But when you stub your toe or whatever, it's like, oh, you hit something in the dark. Oh, your body's communicating. Hey, partner, you know what I'm saying? You stepped on the bed frame.
Right.
The kid got a million toys on the ground and you step on something.
Exactly. You step on the Lego, bro.
Man.
Tragic.
I don't even want to talk about that.
That's tragic. But it permeates every area of life. And it's those are the things that are not easy to ignore, but they're easy to take for granted. The way we interact in life with each other or with ourselves is not much different. When we run into something, you talked about getting up in the morning. A lot of times getting up in the morning is about working through how you feel. Like, I don't feel like getting up. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
Mhm.
Whether you have a full-on dialogue or not, you are communicating to your body's communicating to you. You might hit that snooze button. So, you know what I'm saying? Some communication is happening.
Right.
And so a lot of it, you guys have already touched on, is like the level of awareness. Like, are you speaking when you're communicating, however you're communicating, whether you're communicating with yourself, you're communicating with your spouse, you're communicating with your children, are you speaking the same language? Because I've lived long enough. I ain't old, but I've lived long enough to understand that I have not always interpreted the things that my body was trying to tell me the right way.
Mm.
And so that's why it's so important to be aware, to be mindful, to have that self-awareness, to make sure that you and your body are on the same page, you and your spouse are on the same page, you and your children, you and your friends, those that you are in relationship with, or your peers, your colleagues, because not everybody communicates the way you do. So whenever I think about communication, it reminds me of this quote by a guy by the name of George Bernard Shaw. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but it just always stuck with me. You know what I'm saying? I don't know a ton about the guy. I think he was a playwright long time ago, but he said this. He said, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it's taken place.
Mm. Yeah.
We say things, we feel things, and we assume that they're understood. But that's the biggest problem with communication. It's the illusion that it has taken place. And if you're a really reserved person, I can only speak for the reserved folks. I'm like 110% reserved, meaning I process things to myself in my head, usually before I let them out. Like, being an intimate relationship, like a marriage, I try to let things out a little quicker, but like in general, I'm gonna lay back in the cut, like.
Process it.
Process that bad boy, right? But even then, when I communicate to my wife, I communicate to my son, I'm like, oh, this is you need to pay attention to this, and this. This is exactly what I mean. This is what I think. Blah blah blase blase. The problem is, it made sense to me in my head, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to connect with them where they are. And communication, just like leadership, is all about meeting the person where they are. You can't lead or communicate with someone from where you are. You have to go to where they are.
Right. Yeah. Y'all killing it. So I'm gonna try to jump in. It's like we playing double dutch, right? So it's like, you got to jump in, right? So here it is, man. Because Shante, he said something that I think everybody needs to catch, and then you definitely piggyback off of it, Ian. That again, our values is the value, right? So when we think about communication, the thing that jumps into mind to me, and my mom was having a conversation. So shout out to my mom, because I'm about to give her some props. Yeah, so we had this conversation. And we'd be having some good ones, bro. So me and my mom was talking, and we was talking about communication. And one of the things that I told her is that basically how I communicate with myself is how I want to communicate with others. Right? Because that internal dialogue. So the one person that you talk to all the time is you.
Okay.
Right. The habits that you develop through an experience, it all comes back to you and how you develop that way of communicating, how you communicate with yourself. So therefore, there's some holes in that we can, but in essence, how I communicate with myself is be how I communicate with others. Right. Consciously and unconsciously. Right. But when I was mom and I brought that up, of course, my mom doing what she does, she said it was like, oh, it's like the love languages. The number one thing about love languages, right, is what? There's 5 of them, but everyone's love language is not the same. So what is it that you have to learn? You have to learn the other person's love language to effectively communicate with them so they can understand, right, what you're trying to tell them. But it's the flip side. They also got to learn how you can communicate. So communication, it's that bridge between us and people, us and groups, especially when we talk about relationships. It's that bridge between relationships. It's that bridge between leaders and organizations. It's that bridge between organizations. Like, communication is so intricate that it is so important that we make sure that we understand not only our ability to communicate and how we communicate, but then how other people receive it. And that's why I say the comprehension factor is important, because I want to make sure that my ability to communicate with others is going to be there. Because look, my language is not your language, right? It's not. You just, I might say something, you'd be like, yeah, I don't, what you talking about, right? But we have to learn how to communicate, or understand how other people communicate, so we can effectively communicate with them. And of course, this is very basic, but sometimes we need to get back to. So let's go ahead and flip it this way. Like, let's even look at it from a.
Froze on us, huh?
You froze on us a little bit, bro. Man, he was going in. Look how fierce he looked at that picture.
Yeah, he was going in, man. So, but yeah, he was right on point. And one thing,
there he is.
You back?
I don't know. Am I back?
You back?
He was in the zone, man.
Well, I was going too.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I love what you were saying with the bridge, which that's one of your go-tos when you be connecting those dots. And when you said that and then you mentioned the love language, and I was thinking, my thoughts went to, how do you get across the bridge? And you can get across the bridge how? You can get across with a car. You can walk across, you can run across. There's different ways, and so that kind of ties into what you're talking about, the love language and DISC, being able to understand, being self-aware of who you are, and that helping you to recognize how other people are. Yeah. So can I be the Porsche coming across? The Porsche is a little bit faster. So we might have a Porsche type conversation because of our connections and how we talk, and we're into coaching and things like that. Whereas if I'm coaching someone, I can't have that Porsche type of conversation. Maybe not. I might have to walk across the bridge with the individual. I might be able to run across it or jog with them. It all depends. But the essence of what you're getting at is that, guess what? I can't communicate with people how I communicate with myself. I can't. I can try, but what happens most of the time when we try to do that? Something's gonna happen. Either the message isn't getting across, someone gets mad, we get into an argument, someone totally misunderstands what the whole conversation was about. You know, I'm a witness. I have a wife, so I'm a witness to that. But yeah, people are individuals. I was telling a guy earlier today, I was like, I tell people, I say, you can't live up to someone else's expectations. Why? Because we're individuals. So the things that I expect of me, going back to what you said about how I communicate with myself, I can't put that on somebody else. No right. matter what it is, because we're individuals. We got brought up different, might be from different cultures, all type of stuff, right? And so, but there's always a happy medium, but the work is getting to it. So, there we go.
Yeah. Because I love the fact that you just said the bridge, right? And then now it's bringing it full circle. So what I heard you say is the methods of communication. So now when we think about just crossing the bridge, it's all about the method. But the method's going to be determined on, again, where you're going. What's the purpose of the communication? Who are you communicating to them? And then what is the result that you're wanting to get to them based on how you're communicating with them? So the method of communication is going to be so viable because you want to make sure from a comprehension. And let me clarify something when I say this comprehension factor. Not to say that people are slow, right? That you don't understand what I'm talking. No, I think it's important that we understand as a communicator that it's important to make sure that our information that we're giving is reaching them, right? I'm gonna bring up my mom because me and my mom was talking. one of the things she said that was, again, when we think about communication, we got audience, right? And I said, yeah, we got to understand our audience. We got to understand our environment. We got to understand, even just how they think and how they receive information. So again, the method of communication is going to be so important because, again, you want to make sure that you get that person there. That's the goal, especially from a leadership perspective. If I'm communicating with you as a leader to my team, and our goal is to conquer the hill, right? To take the hill in a battle, then I need to make sure that I'm communicating all the information effectively so you can hear what you need to hear in order for you to do whatever it is I need you to do when it comes time for you to do your role. But sometimes I think we miss the aspect of, hey, now what did you hear me say? Because again, now I'm just want to confirm with you what you heard and how you understood it. Because if I didn't effectively communicate it, then we have a problem, and then there's going to be a breakdown. Right. And then I love the fact that you brought up the fact of expectations. Another aspect, that's a whole nother conversation. Expectations. Let me ask this question. When was the last time you actually shared the expectations of communication to someone? Right. A lot of times we assume someone already knows the expectations of something. Really sharing, hey, these are my expectations. Now, I would say on a job, when you take on a role, a job, or whatever the case, we might then, because of the job description or your role as the manager or the leader, talking to your team, you're going to let them know your expectations. But in most cases, depending on the relationship, we never really communicate that. But it's under the assumption that the other person knows and understands what that expectation is. And it's interesting, but we never communicate it. Right? Never communicate what that expectation is. My bad. But y'all open the door.
Look, don't you go apologizing.
We're gonna
Come on,
you
man.
gonna keep on. You're gonna be the only one on here. we
We
gonna go
both
ahead and let
gonna
you do your
step
thing.
We both gonna step backstage. Like the 5 heartbeats, boy.
Yeah.
Listen,
but that
you guys have touched on several things. So I think there's an opportunity for us to add a ton of value here in the last 15, 20 minutes. Two things that you mentioned, Sherrod, and both, I think Shante too, but you talked about the 5 love languages, and then we talked about risk. I think if we could just touch on the 5 love languages real briefly, I think you could help somebody.
Now I got to remember them. I think I remember all of them. I don't know if it's in order, but the 5 love languages by you're right, there ain't no order. So is affirmations,
words of affirmation,
gifts, words of affirmations, gifts, acts of service,
quality time. Oh, he froze. Oh, there he is.
Oh, quality of time.
Yep.
You get that one? Okay.
Yep.
I can't remember the 5th one.
Physical touch.
There it is, physical touch. Right. So the physical touch, the words of affirmation, quality of time, acts of service, and gifts. Right. I might have said gifts twice. But those are the 5 love languages, right? And basically what that means is, and again, that's from a well, I was going to say a personal relationship, but that's like husband and wife relationships, like intimate relationships. Thank you. See, I don't know everything all the time, so I'll be slow sometimes. I got my moments, right? So intimate relationships, right? But that's the communication between, 2 partners that are intimate, right? So that is their language, right? And here's the reality: I don't have just one, right? I just don't have one language. I have multiple languages, just depending. But I would say if I could even connect this to it, I do have a natural language, right? Or a permanent, right? A go-to, right? It's predominant. Thank you. And mine is, I can tell you what mine is. Mine is service, right? I'm a servant first. Yeah.
That's the way that you deliver love, or that's the way you receive love?
Well, that's how I deliver love. Okay. So you you that's it. Love these guys. Love them. Right? Oh, did I freeze up again?
You kind of stuttered there a
little
little bit. Yeah.
Acts of service is the way I receive,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, it's also a way that I understand,
Mm.
right? And I think that's important for us to understand that or grab that, because how we give it is how we understand it. So it's also how we receive it. Not saying that the other ones won't give us, the same, but it's just different.
Right.
It's just different, right? It's just almost like, again, when you learn another language. If your prominent language is English and you learn Spanish, you understand some of it, but it's not natural for you. But you can't hold your own in the conversation.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Right. But for me, yeah, acts of service is definitely one.
I think you touched on it. Like, once you discover what your primary love language is, may or may not be, you'll find that you do tend to communicate in that way. On most people, most people do. The challenge is your counterpart. Is that how they receive it? And so there's a lot. The reason that this is so valuable is once you realize how you tend to communicate love versus how your partner tends to receive it. If it doesn't line up, then you have to be intentional. You have to put some effort behind communicating the way that they need to be communicated to. And yeah, so this was originally written about intimate relationships, marriage specifically, but it also translates to other relationships as well. They've done 5 love languages for kids and everything like that. So all of these things still translate. Of course, when you talk about something like physical touch in the context of marriage, it's different than physical touch with your children. But like my son, I already know my son, his top 2 are probably physical touch and gifts. And my son likes to hug. He's a snuggler and all that, what I'm saying? He's only 5. We'll see. I don't expect that to be the case his whole life, what I'm saying? But as he grows, we'll see. But he's got a really loving, nurturing mom. So, he run the mom all day. She gets good hugs. So, but yeah, so that's just something you recognize. Like, if physical touch wasn't a way I communicated, and I was consistently shunning my son from being able to show affection to his father, or I wasn't showing affection to him, that would stunt our relationship. Same thing with my wife. If my wife's primary love language might be words of affirmation, if I'm so focused on tasks and just the busyness of life, and I never slow down to tell my wife she's doing great, or that the thing that she did that was specifically for me was amazing and it meant a lot, then maybe our relationship will be stunted because she won't be receiving what she needs to feel loved. And so, like Sherrod was saying, all 5 of them can communicate to you on different levels. Like, I feel like, I have my top 2 or 3, but I can receive from all of them. Like, I think I can be very specific about acts of service because, my personality tied back to DISC, I'm a C. C's have high standards. What it means is I have a high standard for myself and the way I like things to be done. So what it translates to is most often I do things myself. I do things myself. You know what I'm saying? So my wife's like, "Oh man, you hard to buy gifts for because you just go out when you want something. You might save your money or go out and get it yourself because I know exactly what I want. I ain't gotta wait. Nobody else come buy it for me because
money, the perfect gift."
Exactly. See, because you gonna get the dumb face. You come through with something, and I'm like, bro, I don't know that, bro.
I don't even have no use for that. That's why. What was that? Like, you could have asked.
Exactly.
Like, yeah,
exactly. Not to say my wife is great at giving me gifts, but we also been married almost 10 years.
I was about to say, yeah, clean that up, bro. Clean that up.
But I got some other people. You know what I'm saying? You got family come through. They be like, "Man, why don't you like my gift?" I was like, "I ain't asked for this. This ain't nothing near it." You know what I'm saying?
Right. And that's the thing now, because a gift will let you know if anybody really knows you. You be like, "Now come on. When was the last time you saw me do?"
That is the thing. I think for C, I can speak for myself, but you guys can kind of back me up here. But like for C's, like it's not that we don't appreciate a gift, but to be known and understood to the point that you can actually gift us something, bro, that's mind blowing.
Yeah.
What you said.
Like, my
And-
God,
and-
Lord have
and that's
mercy,
the key.
Jesus.
They don't get, and that actually don't have nothing to do with, because we know you love us. That ain't even a question.
Exactly.
Right.
To be
So it
known.
don't have nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Like, let me go ahead and book this vacation. Where you want to go?
Yeah. And you know what? The crazy thing is that the more and more we talk about just the 4 love languages and then just the cross between the disc and then the cross and just, and it's just interesting because as I look and think about just even to lead.
Here we go. We got a fro smile. Woo-wee. Okay.
Yeah, so the 5 love languages, man. That's even if you can read the book is great. I've read it. I think all 3 of us have probably read the 5 love
Yeah.
languages. But you can just simply look it up and just think, like, what are my love language? What are your love languages personally? And what are the love languages of the people that matter most to you that should be receiving love from you? And the more you become aware in this area, you can almost start to recognize these things really quickly in relationships, right? And so it definitely comes in handy. So like I was using the illustration of my 5-year-old, I could back in the day, 15, 20 years ago, I might have been trying to raise him like a rough and tough boy. You know what I'm saying? Trying to fit the stereotype. You got to be tough. Oh, we ain't doing all the hugging. I don't even barely say I love you, but once a year, you know what I'm saying? Depending on where you're from and what your experience is, you might have been raised that way. But I want to make sure my son feels loved and he doesn't have to go anywhere else seeking that.
Yeah.
And I think that's just as important. So now I don't want him to be a pushover, right? But there's other ways for him to be able to be tough mentally than to not receive love from his father. So, I make sure that I'm open for that. I mean, it's not like I can help. When he puts his little arms around me, I'm like, oh man. All right, buddy. Whatever I'm doing, what you need. And he's back, ladies and gentlemen. Leadership Locksmith.
Yeah. Can't get no good internet around here, player.
I don't know what you saying, bro. I done already shipped you a new router.
Look, check it out. Like, how are we gonna talk about communication and I can't even use?
Oh man, come on, Reverend. That's a perfect segue into illustration, right?
Yeah.
The break in the communication.
Man,
What happened when there's a break in the communication?
How are we gonna talk about communication and I can't even
Come on,
stay connected to the internet?
Wow.
Oh man.
Yeah. So the last part we was talking about was disc, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us
Absolutely.
about this. Talk that disc talk.
Well, one thing I'm gonna say too is one thing I kind of realized. I knew it. You know how you know stuff, but and then till you see it, you really know it. And so, I got back 2 of my reports, and they were both SDs. But if you remember, like page 7 gives you like an overview of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, although they were both, I think SCs, they were both peacemakers, but you still see the distinction in who they are, even as peacemakers.
Yeah.
And so, I already knew that, but then when you see it, it kind of highlights it for you because that's what people still tend to put people in boxes. But just because you're a D for disc or you're an I, and you meet another person that's similar, you guys might be in the same category, but you're still different. And because a lot of people think disc is just it's a blanket. You know what I'm saying? It ain't really specific. It ain't really, because they'll quick to say, well, I do Meyer Bridges, and but it is what it is. The science is there. It is what it is, and it's based on you. At the end of the day, it isn't no and some people, they try to fudge the numbers per se, but you can always tell at the end of the day. So, but DISC is all about what? Just like the love language, being self-aware of who you are.
Mhm.
And just using myself as an example, you know, I've always been a more reserved and shy person, and I think a lot. I'm a like overthinker. You know, ask my wife. She used to really get mad because she asked me a question, and my brain goes into thinking mode, and a minute done passed. Right? Just
Processing.
answer the question. You know what I'm saying? But now that and so I knew it about myself, but now I understand that about myself. So now when the questions come, I'm more self-aware, and now I can say, I can change it up versus now I know, okay, I don't have to have the perfect answer. I can
Right.
just answer the question. Or if it's something I do want to speak about, instead of just being stuck in a loop, now I can say, let me think about that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because
There you go.
because I'm more self-aware of who I am and how my mind works. So now I'm able to take more advantage of who I am when we're and communicating with people, right? Communication.
Yeah.
Uh
Right.
I wanna some people I still will shriek back, you know, or what I call go back in my shell. I think I use the example of a turtle. Some people I still go back in my shell with just because of the relationship, you know, but I don't do it as often as I used to, because I used to do it. It was like automatic. I would withdraw. I would just be like, hey, you know, whatever. But now that I'm more self-aware,
Yeah.
you know, I know who I am, right? It's
Yeah.
just like a kid, whether it's a young man or a young woman coming into their own. When you know who you are, now you're able to, guess what, take up for yourself and respond in proper ways. You know what Paul said, when I was a kid, what
I
I
thought
did
it's
things as a kid,
right.
but when I became a man, right, it's all about self-awareness and growth.
Let's go. Absolutely, man. You know, I actually can relate. I can relate to that. I think, fortunately, I married a woman that was a bit more sensitive to that sort of thing, from the standpoint of she processes too. So she just, you know what I'm saying? But what's interesting though, it was a handful of years ago, we was having a conversation with my moms, and my wife had to break it down to her, like, give him a chance to process and think about what you're saying. Like, and she was like, oh, you know what? I didn't even realize that all these 30 some odd years, I just thought he was being disrespectful. It's like, no. And so the reason I even bring that up is this. I think it's an example of what you were describing, Shante, but also
Absolutely.
like now that we have this awareness, I think we come from a generation that may not have had that in various aspects. Like I want to encourage the next generation. I want to encourage my seed, like, become aware of yourself, you know. And I want to be the guy that pays enough attention to really kind of pick up on things as we go, right? So I'm not bludgeoning him one way or another. Like my son is 5, but he told my wife just the other day, like, when he came home a couple times talking about some stuff that was happening at daycare or school or summer camp, and he was like, Dad asked me a lot of questions, and I don't know what to say. And and I was like, you know what? I understand where he's coming from, because he withdraw, he's shutting down. Again, I'm already starting to see the way he's wired. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's going to exactly what I think, but I'm beginning. I see the breadcrumbs is there clearly. He's like, so I'm like, you know what? I was asking questions, and I asked him a question, and I'm like, maybe I didn't ask it well enough, so I try to rephrase it in hopes that I'm helping him. But ultimately, he's like, it's so many questions, and I don't know the exact answer to the question, and I don't know what to say, so I'm not going to say nothing. Already at 5 years old. So I'm having to change my whole strategy. Like, I just want to support you, son. You're not in trouble. But I'm looking at a mirror of myself like, man, I know exactly how you feel, bro.
Right. Yeah. And here's the thing, man, like, there's a component of the disc that speaks directly to communication.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and again, I just love the fact, Ian, that you're making us bring all that together, right? Especially with the 5 love languages, because here's the reality. Me and my wife's communication has improved. It just continues to improve over and over because of the simple fact. I've done the disc. My wife has done the disc. I have read her report. She has looked at mine. So we see how each other communicates. We understand, right? So it's become a part, right, of just our, so it's not even just the self-awareness of for myself, but now I'm finding the self-awareness of my spouse, right? And able to what really though? Self-awareness of my spouse. So now like that, this being able to communicate is so much better.
Uh-oh.
Is the gap is the simple fact of communication leads to confidence, right? I think it's a level of confidence that is gained through communication or being able to effectively communicate. Because again, that self-awareness component is if I know how I communicate and I understand then I feel comfortable communicating. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes it's like, do people understand what I'm saying? Or am I making sense? Right? Because I have that question sometimes to myself. Right. But now I'm like, okay, well, no, I understand that there's just different levels to this communication thing. There's different methodologies. There's different channels. Right. I think that's even a good concept to think about, that communication is all on different channels. Mm-hmm. Find the right channel. Right. And the channel, again, it's not just about you giving information, but it's also about them receiving the information. So if you're on the same channel, then you'll be able to effectively communicate. But all that comes back to being self-aware.
Yeah. And the good thing about it is we can all be better communicators, right? We can all improve as communicators. One of the things, the simple things that just help me is when I'm communicating, whether it's an individual or an audience, take the focus off myself. Take the focus off myself and focus on helping them understand. Because if I'm focused on myself, I'm going to say it the way I understand it. But the way I understand it includes probably hours and hours of thinking that I did to come to the conclusion that I made. Instead of meeting the person where they are and really trying to just help them understand,
right,
why whatever the subject is important, or what's the main point of it.
And let's go ahead and just throw ourselves on the bus, right? No, I'm gonna speak for y'all too, especially as C's, right? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do that, especially as C's.
Go ahead, then.
We can make something that is very simple, very complex. You'd be like, man, it's just an apple. No, not really. It's more than an apple, right? But we can make something just overcomplicated, right? Even through our communication.
Yeah.
Right. So
now that's true. When Shante was talking earlier about how, having to withdraw, a lot of times when we're told something and we're asked to respond to it, we usually get hung up on one or two things. And it's like, it's right in front of our face. And so the way the processing works is we slowly back away so we can see the details and get perspective. But it takes a minute because we caught up on those one or two little things. But then the thing about it is when we come back to it, now we have connected the dots all the way from that zoomed in, 1,000 degree zoom in back to the full picture and say, okay, now I understand how all of this is connected. So now I got to go back and try to explain all of that connection to the person. But it ain't all about that. if that's why it's so important for us to listen to hear instead of listening to respond.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's core. I say that's for anybody, but especially for us.
That's good.
You just broke it down. That's true for anybody, but especially from us.
Yeah. And it manifests in different ways, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And bro, we come to the end, and I want to throw something out there. I think we got to hit. It's just when we thinking that generationally, right? Like when I think about communication, where we came up, right, and how our parents communicated with us, which were, baby boomers and millennials. So now we're communicating to, these Gen X's and whatever comes after that, right? And we're in an age of social media where a one-on-one conversation is like this, right? That is the communication, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm old school. I'm quick to pick up. Like if I have a problem, especially from a business perspective, if I got a problem, I'm quick to pick up the phone. I want to talk to somebody, right? Because to me, that's just how I communicate. But I just think it's important for us to kind of even think about like, what does that look like from a generational standpoint? Like just the importance of and how to even communicate and show the importance or the various different dynamics or methodologies in communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, you right on. Yeah, I believe that was just that the value of communication. I think that's just very important. The getting the components and being able to put it in work, put it to work in our lives. And I think we hit a lot. But
We
the
did.
key, I think the key about it is one, being able to recognize what's valuable to them. First of all, what's valuable to you, and once you grasp hold of what's valuable to you, then that's the thing where you communicate from. I think that's where you got to realize that's where you communicate from. If you just have a person that has just a heart of gold, I don't care. You could be the meanest person in the world. You're gonna feel it because their value is in that, and that's their passion. So I just wanted to point that out. When you talk about the value of communication, you gotta look back into yourself, become self-aware of what those things are, so that you can relay the message you want to speak.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's a perfect way to kind of close us out this week. We appreciate you been rocking with us. It's the Brothers in Influence podcast. We stand to encourage, inspire, and add value to Black men in the areas of life, leadership, and community. We'll be back next Monday, 6:15 p.m. Like, comment, and share. We invite you to the conversation. Final words, guys.
See you next time.
Nope.